I have found oftentimes if they just don't read, like we're in real estate, if they don't read the contracts, they probably don't check off the smart box. And if you're interviewing someone to figure out if they're smart, I would challenge you to put a purchase and sales agreement in front of them and say, hey, this paragraph right here, or this clause in the contract about, you could choose something simple, not too overcomplicated, but like, this paragraph talks about what remains with the home. Can you read over this clause and tell me what that means in layman's terms? Thanks for joining the podcast today. I want to talk about the 5 key traits that makes a team member in real estate extremely successful. Now, if you're on a team right now, I hope you check off most of these. If you don't and you're questioning yourself, this would be a great opportunity to reflect. If you are not on a team and you're wondering, what is it like being on a team, then listen in, because I believe this one's going to be good for you. I'm going to list them first, and then I want to go do a deep dive into what I mean by all of these. These are the Edrington teams here in Chattanooga, Tennessee at Berkshire Hathaway. These are our hiring traits, and I believe that this is what makes our team special, magical, and successful. It's allowed us to carry the number 1 spot by units sold for, 7 years or so now. And here they are: hungry, humble, smart, with professional maturity and a little bit of swag. And so you've heard some of these before. Yes, I didn't create them all on my own. I have ripped off and duplicated some of these because it just made sense. There's very few original things in the world these days. And so I've added to this list a little bit, but I want to break these things down because this is what's going to make agents very successful working together. If you're a team leader, I think it would, if you're just on a team, if you're a team leader or a team member, and you look around your team and you think, out of all the people on my team, who checks off these boxes? And if they don't, should you be associated with them? And that's not saying you should leave the team, but should they leave the team? If you're the team leader, should you have an opportunity to coach these people up to fit this mold? Either way, however you look at it, hungry, humble, smart, with professional maturity and a little bit of swag. So let's break down what this means. Humble. And again, we're talking about team here. I'm not talking about solo agents today. I'm talking about team members. They have to be humble. And what makes someone humble, and how do you identify it? So when I think humble, I think they can work with others. Yes, they can enjoy the successes. Yes, they can enjoy the wins, but can they also give credit where credit's due? Is it the me show or is it the we show? It's got to be the we over the me every single time. And that is more than just your team members. It also extends to your customers. I see so many agents just brag about how great they were. Well, sometimes the client did it. The client was the one who was interested in buying that record-setting deal. And so do you give credit where credit's due? Now, in the interviewing process, let's say you don't know the person. If you're getting to meet someone for the first time and you're trying to decide if they should be on the team and you're trying to discover, are they humble? I would challenge you to dig far back in their memory as you can to make them think of, tell me a time when you worked on a team and what was that like? And what was a really challenging problem that you had to solve? How did it get solved? If I hear I the whole time, I'm a little concerned because big problems usually aren't solved alone. And so I'd want to learn about, were they in sports? People in sports are great. I think many of us that are in the real estate industry understand that bartenders are absolutely wonderful. Bartenders usually don't work alone. They have a whole crew of people making them look good to the consumer across the bar. But there's industries, there are stories from childhood that will help you understand, is this person going to be a humble person or is it all going to be about them? I've found that the people that have the ego up on the pedestal, it usually doesn't last and it can become toxic over time. So humble's very, very important. Hungry is an interesting one because when I've said I need people to be hungry, it's been misinterpreted, I think, a time or two by some people that think I only want to hire people that don't have money. And don't have money, that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. We've hired people that have, call it what it is, they've been trust fund babies, their parents have taken care of them, they have a spouse that makes very good income. Just because they have money doesn't mean that they're not hungry, but you've got to dig and figure out what are they hungry for, because it's not always money, believe it or not. Money's just a tool that helps them get to the next level. And so when I'm looking for hunger, I want to know the why. I want to know exactly why they want to do this and what's going to drive them day in and day out. Because if they lack the hunger, how do I say this? When it gets hard, they won't show up. That's what I found. And when you invest a lot of your personal time into your team members or your peers, because face it, in my team, many of our team members help our other team members, our newer team members get started. I don't want to waste their resources. So we got to make sure that they are actually hungry enough to want to show up when the hard comes. So just similar like the last one, in that interview process, I would want to find out, in the past, in their previous careers or their previous journeys, tell me about a time when things got really hard. And how did you handle it? Now, they're probably not going to tell you about the story that, I got hard and I didn't really need it, so I quit. You got to dig. You got to ask lots of questions. And when you find yourself, in an interview process saying, I can't figure out if this person's really hungry or not, ask 3 more questions. It's a little trick that we use around here. Not 3 more questions to get the exact answer you want, but 3 leading questions. Just if I'm trying to figure something out, I might just say, you know what, tell me more about that, or what made you say that, or how so, or mirror them if you need to get them to give you a deeper answer of an answer they've already given you. But you got to figure out, are they hungry enough to work when it's hard? That's the key factor here, because when it's easy, anybody does it. We all know that. So talk about hungry, talk about humble. Now let's talk about smart. This is, for me, probably one of the hardest ones to identify, because I think we're in the world now where school, like college, doesn't matter. I mean, you hear every influencer online talking about how college debt is the biggest scam in the world, how, people don't need to go to college and sit in a classroom to learn real life activities that's going to make them successful in life. And I don't know if I fully agree with that. I'm not choosing a side. I could see pros and cons. I have found that people that attended college seem to just have probably better social skills. They interacted just on another level along life. But I also understand all the debt that comes with it and the circumstances of why someone may or may not have been able to or chose not to. But we got to figure out, are they smart enough? And I have found oftentimes, if they just don't read, like we're in real estate, if they don't read the contracts, they probably don't check off the smart box. And if you're interviewing someone to figure out if they're smart, I would challenge you to put a purchase and sales agreement in front of them and say, hey, this paragraph right here, or this clause in the contract about, you could choose something simple, not too overcomplicated, but this paragraph talks about what remains with the home. Can you read over this clause and tell me what that means in layman's terms? If they're able to read a document and then be able to explain it to you in a way that anybody could understand, that's like one of the check boxes for me headed towards understanding if they're smart or not. If they literally just read the whole paragraph back to me, okay, good, they can read, but can they translate that in a way to where someone could understand it? Because sometimes these contracts are a little wordy and they are a little complicated. So there's one part of that might help being a test. Another part with smart, though, is the tech side of our business. I don't know about you, but if you think about one of our team members, they've got to be able to answer a phone call, connect to Bluetooth while they're driving. I know they're not, you shouldn't do this. I don't recommend it, but we know people do it. And look at their phone to see the house that the consumer's calling off of, while also juggling a calendar to see when they can schedule it, while also looking at the showing service, whichever one you may use, to figure out when the home is available to be seen. And then there's also, and many times, like within our team, there's a CRM that you have to update and make notes in and put your next task in of when you're supposed to follow up with them. And And you've got to do all of this without them saying, I forgot my password and I don't know how to get my password. That's a real challenge. If someone's saying, I can't figure out my password, and they don't understand it's just click the forgot password and reset it, you're gonna struggle with some smarts. So there's a tech side of this that's important. But then the third piece of smart is also like street smarts. Do they know when to shut up? Do they talk too much? Can they talk themselves into a deal, but they also easily always talk themselves out of a deal? These are all really important things that you got to think about to be a good team member. You got to be smart in these areas. And it doesn't mean that you can't be successful if you don't check these boxes off. You just might need some more help. And you may get passed up in some team environments. So it's important that the culture fits and that you're around some like-minded people, because it sucks to be in the corner and be the one person that can't figure something out that everybody else in the room can figure it out. So you either have to be really coachable, or you got to be able to do some self-discovery and homework on your own to figure these things out, or you just got it. We know that that's the one that when we're hiring, we're looking for the people that they got it, right? So hungry, humble, smart. Now, professional maturity. If you could imagine, I got in this business when I was 19 and we started a team right out the gate, and I don't know what my parents were thinking and allowing me to influence who we hire at 19 years old, because as you could imagine, we did not hire some of the most professionally mature people when I was 19, 20, 21 years old. Fast forward to 39 today is where I'm at. I have been able to reflect back and see why it's important to hire professionally mature people. I've even gone through the phase in life where I thought, this person doesn't seem to be professionally mature, but they say that they will be, and I believe them. And I didn't actually challenge that deeper than I probably could have. How they dress, is their car clean? How do they speak to people? If there's a lot of yas and we're missing sir and ma'am, we're in the South here. So for our California viewers, yes, that is still a thing here in the South. But if they're lacking some of these very professional, mature tendencies, chances are that's how they're going to represent you in the world of your team and for your peers. And so professionally mature is just extremely important. Now, is there a perfect scenario every single time? No. And are there shortcomings that some people have? Sure. And again, it may not be a shortcoming, but it may be for me on my team. And so they may not see it that way, but I may see it that way. I have to decide every single time we meet someone, if they're lacking a piece of that, can they overcome it with other skill sets? Or do they have that it factor? And so when it comes to professionally mature, you've just got to decide, what is your standard around professionally mature? If you're a team leader, yes, we're talking about hiring and maybe firing. If you're a team member, if you're looking around the room and saying, based on what I know of these people, do I consider them professionally mature, and how does it reflect on me? I think that's a great opportunity to first, don't quit, don't leave. First, go to your team leader and say, hey, I'd like our team to be a bar hire. How do you feel about it? Because chances are your team leader feels the same way, and they just need to know that it's okay to have those conversations with some of those team members. There's a lot of new team leaders out there that are learning just like I did at one point in time. So professionally mature is very important. Last one, so we said hungry, humble, smart, with professional maturity and a little bit of swag. Guys, we're in a first impression business. A little bit of swag goes a long way. And I don't mean they got to be GQ and on the front cover, if that's even still a thing. But they've got to have a little bit of swag. Can they light up a room? If you had, we used to do this when our team was smaller. Before we hired anyone, we'd always have a social somewhere. We'd invite them out, and I'd ask the team if there was any red flags. And sometimes they were the life of the party. Sometimes they fit in perfectly. Sometimes they sat in the corner by themselves and didn't say a thing because they were a little too shy. They were a little too cautious. They were intimidated, maybe dealt with some anxiety that they didn't know how to work through yet. And any of those aspects, and I know this is judgy, but when hiring someone, you have to be judgy because you are going to take on that baggage that comes along with it. And so you've got to decide, is this the right fit for your team? And so do they have that swag? Because if you hire someone that is lacking the first impression ability, they need to be a chameleon. They got to understand if they walk into a room and everybody's suited up, you're probably going to handle that a little bit differently than if you walked into a listing presentation and it's a couple guys hanging out in the garage drinking a beer. You got to know how to blend in with be a chameleon, blend in with that crowd. And so that's going to be really important as well. So if you think about hungry, humble, smart with a little bit of hungry, humble, smart with professional maturity and a little bit of swag, and you were to take a step back and look at the team that you're on right now and you say, can we create our values? This is Doug's values. Maybe this works for you, but I think this is what makes it a very strong team if you focus on these values. If you look at your team and you say, we don't have that, or the values that are important to us, it's not what they are, then it becomes the time where you get to say, it's time to push up or push out. We're going to push these people up or we need to push them out because it's harming our reputation. It's harming our goals. It's not helping us align with what we want to accomplish. Now, on the flip side, if you're the person that's saying, oh no, I don't fit in with this crew because I don't check off these boxes. I told you my boxes, but other teams have different core values that are important to them. So maybe you should reflect and say, did I just join the first team that I had a friend that was there or was the only person I interviewed? Did you join the wrong team? Chances are if you went and talked to your team leader and said, hey, I feel like I don't fit in for these reasons, I bet the team leader feels exactly the same way. And so I think having a healthy conversation with them, chances are they're probably going to help you with a very seamless exit and maybe even guide you to the place that you should be, because you got to find your tribe. Absolutely have to find your tribe. So as I wrap this up and I think through this is so important to me. It comes from the heart, not just from the head, because it took me a long time to put together these values. And yes, I think the hungry, humble, smart piece came from a conference that I was at in Charleston one year. Can't remember the guy's name. He stood on stage, and I'm sure he stole it from someone else. But then I added on the professional maturity and the swag piece. And that's what makes us who we are and makes us special, allows us to stay number one and enjoy doing it. So I hope you're at a place that you enjoy. If you're not, I hope you're on the journey to get there. If I can help you in any way, please email me, DM me, message me, however we can communicate. I'm on board. If you're enjoying this, make sure you subscribe. I'd love for you to continue to listen and love to have a further conversation with you about real estate if that is something you're interested in. Always, thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.